UFC on June 14th. It's going to be June 14th next year. And they're building an arena. The great Dana White's building an arena. And they're going to have 8 or 9 championship fights, the biggest fights they've ever had. Everyone's a championship fight. And everyone's a legendary type of fight.
So Joe Rogan has been making some serious noise about the UFC's White House plans, and he's basically saying that keeping Jon Jones off this card would be the biggest mistake they could possibly make. This whole thing has turned into this massive behind-the-scenes battle that's got everyone in the MMA world picking sides. We're looking at something that could completely change combat sports forever, and Rogan is not staying quiet about how he thinks it should all play out.
Well, if they don't do Jon Jones at the White House, I think it'd be a travesty.
Here's the thing about Rogan's take on this situation, and there's definitely some logic behind his thinking. When you're already doing something completely insane like staging fights right there on the White House grounds, something that's never even been attempted before, why would you suddenly get conservative about your fighter selection? That's exactly how he sees it. Dana White originally had some pretty solid reasons for being hesitant about Jones, concerns that made total sense if you know the history there. But Rogan has completely flipped his position on this, like a total reversal in his thinking. The way he sees it now, an event this massive, this historically significant, should make you throw caution out the window, not play things safer. Picture what we're actually talking about here. A venue that's never seen anything like this, an anniversary that happens once every generation. And the absolute biggest stars the sport has to offer, all coming together for one incredible night. In Rogan's mind, that combination screams for bold choices, the kind of matchmaking that creates moments people never forget, not careful decisions that leave everyone wondering what might have been. He's convinced that putting Jones against someone like Alex Pereira would create the kind of fireworks that would make the entire event legendary. This isn't about taking a dangerous gamble that could backfire spectacularly. This is about creating the main attraction that becomes the reason everyone remembers this night forever.
Trump said there's going to be 8 to 9 title fights at the White House UFC event. And win back title fights, right?
There's only 8 weight classes, so how's there going to be 9 title fights?
We're going to have 20 title fights. All the title fights there's ever been. Everyone's a championship fight. Everyone's a legendary type of fighter.
Well, if they don't do Jon Jones at the White House, I think it'd be a travesty. Dana's like, you can't count on him. You guys count on him. Come on. That's the White House. Come on. How security are they going to have for this?
Dana White sees things completely differently, though, and that's where all this tension is really coming from. The UFC president has been pretty vocal about his doubts whenever Jones gets brought up for this card. Over the last several months, White has been actively shutting down Jones's efforts to get back into the title conversation, especially for something this high profile, where everything has to go perfectly. White's whole approach centers on reliability and track record. 2 things that become absolutely crucial when you're putting on a show that the entire planet will be watching. His argument is that past problems make Jones too unpredictable for an event where the stakes couldn't be higher. When you're building something in front of the White House with the president in attendance, there's zero room for anything to go wrong. But this is exactly where Rogan breaks completely from Dana's way of thinking. Rogan doesn't buy into that concern at all. He believes the White House setting would actually guarantee that Jones shows up completely locked in and ready to perform. The pressure in the spotlight would bring out the absolute best in someone who's already proven he's one of the greatest fighters who ever lived. When the moment is that big and the stage is that bright, Rogan thinks that's exactly when Jones delivers his most memorable performances, not his most problematic ones.
On June 14th, we're having a fight. All of the greatest champions in the world, the UFC fight, they're building an arena in front of the White House, if you can believe it. Then like 6,000 seats, and then they're going to build it for the fight. They're going to have the greatest champions of the world coming, and they're going to have over 100,000 people out. They're putting screens all over certain parts of Washington so everyone can see it. I don't think there'll be anything like it. It'll be on a Sunday night, June 14th. Flag Day happens to be my birthday, but I didn't do it for that reason. Just it actually, sir, we like the June 14th date. I said, it's my birthday. They didn't know it, but they picked it. But it's, I'll take a little heat on that, but it's not that. But I will tell you, that's going to be some. Everyone's asking me for tickets for the UFC. But it's going to be great. They're going to have the greatest champions in the world all fighting that night. The great Dana White does a great job, and he wanted to do it. And the White House will be the background of the fight. There'll never be anything like this. There has never been, and there never will be anything like.
This entire debate is happening while the UFC prepares for something absolutely unprecedented. They're planning to celebrate America's 250th birthday with an outdoor event on June 14th next year that makes everything they've done before look small. We're not talking about some simple tribute show here. President Trump and Dana White have already laid out plans that sound almost impossible to believe. They're constructing a full arena directly in front of the White House, complete with seating for thousands of fans right there on the lawn, plus tens of thousands more watching on giant screens placed all around the area. The scale of this construction project puts most stadium events to shame. Trump has described this as something bigger than anything the UFC has ever attempted in its entire existence, and that's saying something considering the massive events they've pulled off over the years. He's not just talking about star power, though there will be plenty of that, but actual volume, the sheer number of fights, the number of titles being defended, the number of legends competing all on the same night. What really got everyone's attention throughout the MMA community was Trump's suggestion that this card could feature 8 or maybe even 9 championship fights in one evening. Just think about that for a minute. 9 title fights happening on the same card. In the UFC's entire history spanning decades, they've never put more than 3 championship bouts on one card. And that's only happened a few times under very special circumstances. The idea of nearly tripling that record immediately raised serious questions about whether it's even possible. How do you handle the logistics, the fighter preparation, the medical requirements, the judging, the broadcast schedule, and maintain competitive integrity? Even for an organization known for pushing boundaries and attempting things other promotions wouldn't dare try, this sounded extreme. This sounded like it might be impossible to execute properly.
So, Jamie, what were you just saying? I stopped you because it sounds so crazy.
Trump said there's going to be 8 to 9 title fights at the White House UFC event, and that they're, I guess, in quotes, withholding.
Okay,
Dana's
first
holding
of
back
all,
title fights right now.
there's only 8 weight classes. So how's there going to be 9 title fights?
Oh. Maybe a BMF fight. Maybe you add a BMF. Maybe you have all of them in a BMF.
I guess, but that's kind of a crazy thing. We're going to have 20 title fights. All the title fights it's ever been. Did he say any matchups?
No, he didn't say who. He just said they're going to... I'll see if there's even like a tweet about it. But I just saw him talking about it.
Let's see. What does it say here? Donald Trump predicts 8 or 9 championship fights. Okay. It would literally have to be every weight class fighting for the title, which would be nuts. Everyone's a championship fight. Everyone's a legendary type of fighter. Yeah, he's actually holding back fights right now for 6 months so he can do it in the 15th of June. Trump continued, seemingly meaning 14th of June. Arena's going to be 5,000 or 6,000 seats right in the front door of the White House. 100,000 people in the back where they're putting up 8 or 10 very big screens. What kind of fucking security are they going to have for this?
It's got to be insane.
Yeah. Are you trying to get on this?
Rogan expressed exactly that mix of disbelief and excitement when this topic came up during his MMA show with middleweight fighter Brandon Allen, who was probably thinking the same thing everyone else was thinking. His immediate reaction, and this is typical Rogan being practical about the numbers, was to question how the math could possibly work. If you look at just the men's divisions, the UFC only recognizes 8 weight classes right now, so where would a 9th title fight even come from? The puzzle starts making slightly more sense when you factor in the women's divisions, which have their own championships, plus the BMF title, which isn't technically a traditional belt, but carries enormous cultural significance in the sport. Even accounting for all of those possibilities, the concept still seems absolutely overwhelming from an execution standpoint. Cramming that many high-stakes fights into one event, with all the preparation and recovery time required between them, would push everyone involved to their absolute limits. Fighters dealing with weight cuts and fight preparation, officials managing bout after bout, broadcasters trying to maintain energy levels through what could be a 6 or 7 hour marathon, and fans who would need to stay engaged through an unprecedented amount of championship-level action. While Rogan acknowledged that technically, on paper, it might be possible if you really forced it, he also understood how incredibly demanding it would be for everyone watching and everyone working behind the scenes. It wouldn't necessarily mean every single champion defending their belt on the same night, which would be completely insane logistically, but it would still require coordination between matchmakers, training camps, medical staff, and broadcast teams, unlike anything ever attempted before. Despite raising legitimate questions about feasibility, he didn't completely dismiss the ambition or call it a terrible idea. Instead, his response captured this sense of cautious wonder. This feeling of, I can't believe they're seriously considering this, but maybe they can actually pull it off. It's the same tone many fans have when they try to imagine an event that could completely reshape what a UFC supercard looks like, and what the sport can achieve on its biggest stage.
You know, I have 8 months and change out to the White House event. It's a 6-month operation. You know, I consider it a 6-month operation to get ready for this bout. And that's my focus right now. I'm just eager to, you know, climb the steps into being ready for my return. There's a lot at stake, and I'm very excited at the opportunity. I was right there with my last one. I was in incredible condition, incredibly well prepared, and just a slight lapse in concentration led to an injury. I wish to correct that and show what I'm about. And that's it. I'm eager to get back, and we'll see what the future holds after that.
You've become such a big part of BKFC. As you're getting back into fight mode, do you have to take a step back from the other businesses like BKFC, like Forged, just to get ready for a fight, or are you going to be able to kind of balance everything?
No, there will be a period of isolation for sure, where the phone will not be answered. And, you know, all my people involved with me understand that it is coming. And as I said, it's a 6-month operation. I'm under no illusion of what lies ahead of me in my preparation efforts. So the phone will be switched off and the work will be executed.
One name that keeps coming up in every conversation about the White House card is Conor McGregor, whose potential return has been hanging over the sport like an unanswered question for years now. After that devastating leg injury against Dustin Poirier in 2021, an injury that was genuinely difficult to watch even for people accustomed to violence in combat sports, McGregor hasn't fought at all. Yet somehow, he remains arguably the promotion's most recognizable star, even after all this time away from actual competition. By the time the White House event happens in June, he'll be approaching 5 full years on the sidelines, which is an eternity in fighting terms, but he continues speaking publicly as if his comeback isn't just possible but guaranteed. Like the decision has already been made in his mind, McGregor has stated in various interviews and social media posts that he expects official confirmation early in the year once matchmaking formally begins. In the meantime, he's been training as if the fight is already booked. According to him, and he's been pretty consistent with this message, the specific details matter less than simply getting back to competition and proving he can still perform at the highest level. He's been completely transparent about training twice daily, going through full camp preparations including sparring and conditioning, everything that goes with serious fight preparation, maintaining legitimate fighting shape driven as much by personal routine and pride as by any formal agreement with the UFC. This seems like someone who genuinely needs this comeback for reasons that go beyond money or fame.
The White House is on. We're just waiting for, you know, full confirmation. I assume around February they'll come reaching out and we'll go into contract negotiations and matchmaking and all that. That's what they say. So I'm just staying ready in the gym, you know, 2 times a day.
Does Islam motivate you a bit more than most, like any other champion before that, because you have that feud with them?
No. I'm motivated, I'm self-motivated, and I for sure want to crack at that belt. I for sure want to crack at that 70-pound belt to go for the Triple Crown.
And what a fight that would be, you and Islam. That'd be crazy, wouldn't it, after all these years?
A good fight. A good scrap. Southpaw. It was a good performance out of him, and fair play to him. He had the courage to do it, to go up. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. Let's see what happens. Let's get back in the mix.
Yeah, it could be pretty special. What's Michael Chandler for you?
Like I said, I hope, but I won't say no to no one. I won't. The UFC will decide it, and I don't care. I just want to come back. You know, I'm just eager to come back and show my work.
McGregor's longtime coach, John Kavanagh, has backed up that confidence in several interviews, supporting everything McGregor has been saying publicly. From a training perspective, Kavanagh considers the entire team fully committed to McGregor making that walk next summer. There's zero doubt in his voice when he discusses it. He's described McGregor arriving early to the gym, genuinely enjoying the structure and discipline again after years of chaos, specifically working toward a clear, long-term plan building toward June with measurable goals along the way. while contract negotiations and official UFC approval remain completely unresolved, and that's a major question mark over everything. Kavanagh has made it clear that preparation isn't waiting for paperwork or Dana White's signature. They're moving forward as if it's definitely happening because in their minds, it is happening. That said, and this is where things get messy and complicated, McGregor's path back has been anything but smooth or straightforward. Since that leg break in 2021, McGregor's name has shown up far more often in legal news than in fight announcements, which isn't the type of publicity the UFC typically wants surrounding its biggest stars. A civil case from a 2018 incident led to a liability ruling followed by a failed appeal that kept the story in news cycles, then additional scrutiny from media outlets examining his personal life. Another lawsuit connected to an alleged incident during the 2023 NBA Finals created even more controversy around his public image. Even though criminal charges were never filed and the civil matter was eventually dropped, his reputation had already taken significant damage. He's also encountered serious problems within the UFC's anti-doping program after missing multiple whereabouts checks, which are required for fighters in the testing pool. That violation alone delayed any sanctioned return until at least March 2026, which cuts pretty severely into the White House timeline. All these factors combined seriously complicate McGregor's comeback story and make many people question whether he can actually make this happen. Yet, despite everything, none of it has reduced his personal drive or his belief that he belongs back in the octagon. He continues speaking publicly about fighting again with the same confidence he's always had, including ambitions that go far beyond just a simple return fight to knock off the rust. If given the opportunity, and he's been very clear about this, he's expressed genuine interest in pursuing a welterweight title, targeting a rare accomplishment that would extend his championship legacy across 3 different divisions. Watching Islam Makhachev recently capture gold at 70 pounds has only intensified that hunger and given him a specific target to pursue.
A lot of talk behind that. Jon Jones, he puts his name in the hat. Conor McGregor, he puts his name in the hat. Heck, GSP, they're calling you. Would you put your name in the hat?
Hell no. I'm retired and I'm good. Takes a lot of discipline to stay retired. And I would say about once a month, my phone rings or I receive a text message or are you interested of doing this, doing that? I got fights offered all the time, but I'm good where I am right now. But yeah, you talk about Jon Jones. That would be fun to see Jon Jones come back. I would love to see him fight. I think he wants to go against Alex Pereira. And I think it's an interesting fight, especially at the White House. That would be great.
Is that the fight you want to see, GSP?
That's one of the fights that I would like to see. I would like to see the rematch between Thomas Penal and Cyril Gane. That was an amazing fight until that eye poke happened. And I would like to see perhaps if Islam Makhachev wins, or even if he doesn't win Saturday, I would like to see him fight Ilyas Topuria, or the winner between Ilyas Topuria and Paddy the Baddy.
Conor McGregor. Do you speculate that he returns? If there's one fight to get him up for, it's returning at the White House.
That would be a good one. To make him fight against, I don't know, maybe Chandler or I wonder which guy do you think would match the best with Conor McGregor? I don't think it would be fair to put him for a title fight. I think he needs to that one fight at least. I know he's very popular, but I think there's other guys in line that deserve a shot before he does. But who would you match him against?
Beyond McGregor and Jones, beyond all the speculation surrounding those 2 massive names, other legendary figures from the sport's history have shared their thoughts on what this card should look like. Georges St-Pierre, widely considered one of the absolute greatest champions in UFC history, someone whose opinion carries enormous weight in the community, has revealed his personal wish list for the event, and it's pretty ambitious. He's expressed strong support for Jones returning, particularly against Alex Pereira, describing it as exactly the type of clash that belongs on such a historic stage. This isn't just an excellent fight. This is the kind of fight that defines entire eras. He's also identified what he sees as unfinished business elsewhere on the roster, specifically mentioning a potential rematch between Tom Aspinall and Cyril Gane after their first meeting ended far too early due to injury, leaving everyone wondering what would have happened in a complete fight. St-Pierre's vision extends even further when he discusses dream scenarios involving Islam Makhachev facing Ilia Topuria, regardless of how Makhachev's welterweight campaign develops or what happens with his lightweight title. From his perspective as someone who competed at the highest level, the White House card represents a unique chance to deliver absolute dream matchups, without being overly restricted by traditional timing, divisional politics, or the usual constraints that govern matchmaking. The anniversary setting, in his view, completely justifies taking risks and getting creative with the booking, even if it means arranging fights that wouldn't normally make sense on a regular pay-per-view card.
Now, what's your ideal White House card look like?
Jon Jones versus Pereira, for sure. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. That would be awesome. You know, you want to have some fun. Like, that's a fun fight. You would probably want, like, Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. That would be insane. You know, maybe even at 155. I don't know if Islam even wants to make 155 anymore, but Ilia said he would fight him at 170, which is crazy because Ilya's smaller than me.
Despite all the speculation, despite all the names being discussed and dream matchups being debated by fighters and fans, Dana White has stayed absolutely firm on one key point. He's stated repeatedly in interview after interview that no official matchmaking for the White House event will begin until early 20. That's his position, and he's not budging from it. Until then, until that calendar flips, everything being discussed publicly exists in this strange limbo of concepts, hopes, social media campaigns, and behind-the-scenes negotiations we'll never hear about. Champions are discussing who they want to face, former champions are actively lobbying to get back in the cage, and fans are creating their own fantasies about what the perfect card would include. What makes this whole situation pretty unusual, compared to how UFC events are typically built, is how openly everyone is discussing it so many months ahead of time. Cards are rarely talked about as hypotheticals this far out with such certainty and conviction. Usually there's more caution, more waiting for official announcements, but the symbolism of the White House, the historical significance of what this event represents, seems to override all that typical restraint. For Rogan, and he's been absolutely clear about this, that symbolism demands the biggest personalities and the most compelling fights possible. Excluding Jon Jones, from his perspective, would completely defeat the purpose of the entire spectacle and waste a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The tension right now sits perfectly balanced between caution and ambition, between playing it safe and swinging for the fences. On one side, you have Dana White, who's ultimately responsible for everything and tasked with delivering flawless execution under global scrutiny. His reputation is on the line in front of the entire world. On the other side are voices like Rogan, McGregor, and St. Pierre, all pushing the UFC to lean completely into the moment, to embrace the chaos and the risk, to create something people will discuss forever instead of something that simply plays things safe. With several months still remaining before any decisions are actually finalized and contracts get signed, the White House card remains a blank canvas waiting to be filled. Whether it becomes a measured, carefully constructed celebration that hits all the right notes, or an all-out showcase of legends throwing caution aside and assembling the most stacked card in MMA history, will ultimately determine how this night gets remembered decades from now in the sports history book.